Hey everyone, welcome. I am your host, Jenavation. This show is about keeping our community together. It's about having honest conversations on what is affecting us, such as relationship issues, sex, racism, politics, and so much more. So grab your coffee right now and take a seat, relax, and join in the conversation. Make sure you click that subscribe button, the like button, and on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on, Spotify and YouTube, and make sure you share on all of your platforms. Let's go.
Powered by Riverside.
Yes. So we are back. Welcome back to the Dashiki Mentality podcast. We are talking about domestic violence this week. Recently in the news here in Cleveland, a reporter, well-known reporter here, was shot by her boyfriend. Shot her live, which is I'm not understanding that at all. Shot her, and then he shot and killed himself. He's dead, but from what I understand, she's in the hospital fighting for her life. A couple weeks ago, we all know that a Olympic star was set on fire by her boyfriend, and she died. He also suffered from burns as well from the fire that he set, and he died a couple days after she did. Do we know what trauma is? Because there's all kinds of trauma going on, especially when it comes to domestic violence, both male and female. Domestic violence is not just males hurting women. It's also women hurting men. It goes both ways. We mostly talk about the men because that's the one that is always on the front lines. So we rarely talk about the women also being the one that's domestic, as far as domestic violence is concerned. But this particular episode, there might be two parts to this. This is part one. We're going to talk about domestic violence as far as the men abusing women, especially in our community as Black people. We seem to carry so much trauma that was passed down from generations to generations, from generations to generations, and we seem to keep on passing it down. From what I understand, the man shot this woman in front of their daughter. I don't know how old the little girl is, but she's definitely going to need some counseling along with her mother. Hopefully her mother recovers from this, but they're going to need some serious counseling. So not only did she witness a domestic violence situation, she witnessed her father also inflicting a gunshot wound to himself and dying. Again, I have no idea how old this young girl is. I'm actually hoping this girl is too young to remember of what happened. But I'm sure that her mother will sit her down and explain the situation of what happened eventually as she get older and when she's old enough to understand what happened. This is really sad, really, really sad. There should be no reason for this to even happen in the first place. If you're in a situation or if you're in a relationship and it goes as far as you putting your hands on each other, you need to go ahead and call it quits. Just break up, go your separate ways. Love is not a fist. Love is not you pulling out a gun and shooting the other person. Haven't we learned anything from what happened to Megan Thee Stallion when she was shot in the foot? What's interesting about this is And what's interesting about that with the Megan and Thee Stallion situation, we as Black people, especially young Black people, we think everything is a joke. We want to always try to find a way to blame the victim. Everybody tried to blame Megan Thee Stallion for it. They always talk about what did she do to make that where this happen? Did this even really happen? And we never take anything seriously until that happens to us. And that's when we want to be like, oh, woe is me, and I've been through this. Why? Because we think famous people don't go through real things like we do, like regular people. We think because people got all this money, they're famous, they on TV, they got music, they do movies, they have big mansions, they got all these cars, and we swear up and down that because they have all of these things, that they don't go through the same issues that we do. The only difference that from them to us is they got a whole lot more money than we do. They're millionaires, and we're not. That's the only difference. Just because you make millions of dollars doesn't mean you don't carry that trauma you had from when you wasn't a millionaire into being a millionaire. How you doing? um, but we seem to we don't talk about domestic violence uh, as much as we really should. And it's interesting that this happened because this is October, and October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, by the way. I'm going to read something as far as domestic violence. I'm getting this from Instagram, and it says, domestic violence affects millions in Black and Latinx communities every year, yet it's often hidden in silence. Again, like I said, we don't talk about it enough. It's not just physical, it can be emotional, financial, psychological. It impacts our mental, emotional, and physical health, our families, and our communities. It's time to break the silence. I'm going to give you some numbers. 1 in Black women will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. 1 in 7 Black men will experience severe physical violence by intimate partners. Negative 44% of Black women have experienced intimate partner violence. Black women are 2.5 times more likely to be unalived by men than white women, with 92% of these committed by someone they know. 1 in 3 Latinx women will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. 1 in 10 Latinx men report experience intimate partner violence. Nearly 50% of Latinas who experience domestic violence never sought formal help. As a community, we can create brave spaces for healing and recovery. Let's care for and protect each other. Be sure to share this and raise awareness. Most definitely. You can go to melaninandmentalhealth.com. That's where I'm reading this from. You can also follow them on Instagram. Yeah, domestic violence is real, and apparently it ain't so bad to where we're not stopping it. So when things get real bad and we've had enough, I'm sure we'll do everything we can to stop this. Domestic violence comes from trauma. It comes from to me, it's mental illness. You're dealing with some mental illness. You're dealing with all kinds of trauma that you have not healed from, that you haven't got counseling from. It will result in some type of violence in some way, shape, or form. Whether you are inflicting violence to yourself or to someone else, you mainly, when you're inflicting that pain into someone that you love, a family member, a loved one, a spouse. Usually, stuff like this is happening every day, and then the numbers are way too high for us to ignore this. Its numbers are way too high, especially in our communities. Especially in our communities. Listen to what I just said. 1 in 4 Black women will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. I believe these numbers. Okay, I personally think it's 1 in 2. They're saying 1 in 4. it seemed to have gotten worse over the years. There's domestic violence that was in my family. My mother, her first husband, she, you know, pregnant at 17, married at 18, and she was married to a violent man. She was in a domestic violence marriage. So was my sister. My sister was married into a domestic violence marriage. So I'm very fortunate to say that they both survived and got out. Not everybody gets out of the situation. So I too was at one point in my life was in a domestic violence relationship myself, and I was fortunate to get out. So again, 1 in 4. This is just 3 women I just told you in one family. Can you imagine what the numbers really are with a whole lot of other families out there? If you have been in domestic violence situation, please find a way to get out before a serious tragedy happens. You have families that love you, you have children, you have so much uh so much life to live, and that's not the type of life you should live. No one should deal with domestic violence, both men and women. No one. And not just with our communities. This is everyone. Okay? This is absolutely tragic. We have enough issues going on. The last thing we need to deal with is coming home to someone that we're sleeping with, that we spend our lives with, dealing with them putting their hands on us. It's so bad that they're not even just putting their hands on their spouses anymore. They pulling out guns and shooting. They're setting their spouse on fire. Now, if that's not mental illness, I don't know what is. Y'all tell me what that is. If it's not mental illness, you tell me what that is. And while y'all think about that, we're gonna take a very quick break, and we're gonna go. Yeah, we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Powered by Riverside.
Powered by Riverside FM.
Powered by Riverside.
All right, y'all, and we are back. Unfortunately, my Black business highlight section will not work for this episode, but it will be back to working on the next episode. Let me just quickly say, if you want your Black business highlighted here on the podcast, you can always email me at jenavation@gmail.com, subject line BBH, which stands for Black Business Highlights. And I will highlight your business here on the show every week. It's $25 for 4 episodes. All you got to do is email me and let me know your name of business, and you can cash app me for your business to be highlighted here. And again, welcome back to the Dashiki Mentality Podcast. Here, the show is about keeping our community together. It's about having honest conversations of what's affecting us, such as relationship issues, sex, racism, politics, and so much more. So grab your coffee and join us in this second half of this episode. Make sure you click that subscribe button and the like button on whatever platform you're listening to, Spotify and YouTube. Also, share it on all of your platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can go to my website at thegeneravationnetwork.com. Also, sign up for my newsletter and become a member of the website and app. All of the links and information will be underneath this episode. So let's get back into it. Domestic violence. Trauma. We were supposed to talk about the Deliverance movie with Monique. The movie is by Lee Daniels, which, by the way, actually, let's go ahead and talk about it. We're going to briefly talk about it because it kind of ties into what we're talking about. We're talking about domestic violence, especially within our community. That movie, everybody is so focused on the wrong stuff. Everybody was so focused on the religion side of the movie, but no one really talked about the trauma part. No one talked about the fact that the mother was an alcoholic, that the mother was abusive to her children. No one talked about the trauma of the Child Protective Services system. No one talked about how the trauma is passed down from generation to generations. No one talked about the race issue. There was a race issue in the movie because the woman's mother was white. At least in the movie, from what I understand, they showed the real person at the end of the movie, and it showed her mother, I think, but she didn't look. I don't know. Maybe I need to see it again, but I wasn't sure. But again, the trauma. There's so much trauma that was in this movie that no one talked about. Y'all was so focused on the religion side. Even the religion side, though, however, is part of the trauma, especially when it comes to Black households, especially when it comes to Black women. There was this sense of what happens in this house stays in this house kind of vibe that we all know. And again, no one really talked about it. They talked so much about demons. Like y'all took this movie, y'all went completely left when it comes to your opinions on this movie. Now, there was very few people that did touch on the trauma part, but it was just so y'all were looking for, because it was made as a horror movie, but y'all were trying to look at this movie as a Stephen King movie, and it wasn't that. It wasn't that, and chances are it wasn't supposed to be like a Stephen King movie. And we keep talking about, well, it's supposed to be a horror movie. Well, domestic violence and child abuse and alcoholism and family trauma being passed down through generations, and how it affects other families as well. It's not just one family, because it did touch on that too. Is a horror movie. That's a horror story. So, but because it wasn't like a Stephen King It movie, and it wasn't quite fiction, and it wasn't no one liked it. I loved it. I thought it was a wonderful movie. I loved Monique's character. I personally think she should have did a little bit more with her character. I also think they should have touched on more of the story of the woman's mother, because there was some stuff going on with that, but then one really touched on it too much. They did, however, mention how she was just like, did exactly the same thing. Again, trauma passed down from generation to generation, but I wish they would have went into a little bit more depth with the grandmother and her story. I wish they kind of told a little bit more as far as that family that was in the house before them. They touched on how she chopped off her husband's head, and how the devil wanted her son and got her son. But again, y'all took that literally instead of saying what it really was. The woman was going through some type of trauma. She was abusive to them kids in the house. She was abusive to the husband apparently because he chopped the man's head off. So, you know what I'm saying? And everybody was so focused on the what's they call it? What do they call them? Them things, them people. And it's a true story or it's based on true events. But they're so busy trying to make it out to be something other than what it really was. And it was trauma within the black family, with black women specifically. They touched on, you know, black women's traumas as far as I loved how Monique's character, she was the caseworker for Child Protective Services. I loved how she touched on what happened to her personally, where she turned and boom, within seconds, her child was dead because she wasn't watched. Because anything can happen in seconds. I like that she touched on it. Um, and it was a conversation between black women of, hey, I go through trauma just like you go through trauma, and this is why I do what I do as a child protective service. But my problem was, if that's why you do what you do, how come you didn't get them kids out that house? Because that was another situation where I thought, okay, you're supposed to be child protective services. You know that there's bruises on these kids. You know that apparently there's history, that they have some type of history. I guess she and you see the signs that nothing was getting better. Why didn't you get them kids out? So I don't know. It was just an interesting movie. I love the movie. Y'all let me know in the comments what you thought of the movie. Um, but I thought Deliverance was a really, really good movie. And everybody was again, Deliverance and Exorcism, and which is, again, it was used as a, to me, it was a prompt to make make the movie more horrific. Again, it's supposed to be a horror movie. However, if we really want to get down to it, some black families used to use exorcism and deliverance as a way to, fix the issues going on in the house. Because they really believe it's a demon in the house when they know damn well it's just this alcoholic woman beating the hell out of her kids. No one wants to say it like that. We seem to tend to blame everything but ourselves, or blame what we're looking at. Okay? We see this huge, we know the alligator, like I said, that's that old what happens in the house, stay in the house. You know there's some stuff going on, but you don't say nothing. You just sweep it under the rug. You know that alligator's eating the damn kitchen table. Y'all at the dinner table, supposed to be enjoying your food, but you see this alligator coming in, is biting on the legs, and then y'all act like y'all don't see it. And it's like, just act like you don't see it. Shut your mouth. You talk too much. You ain't got to say everything. I personally, my mother told me this. She said, the real reason why we as black people, especially black mothers, say what happens in this house, stay in the house, it was supposed to be for keep nosy people out your house when it comes to marital issues, parenting issues. It wasn't supposed to be, it was supposed to keep white people out your house as well, you know? But it wasn't supposed to be to the extent of if there's abuse in this house to where someone can get killed, it wasn't supposed to be for that. So we're actually turned it into a weapon where we used it, you know? Now, if that's the case, yeah, keep people out your house, but don't just act like what's going on isn't going on. Does that make sense? Like, keep people out your house, yeah, but don't act like that alligator ain't eating your damn dining room table. You ain't gonna have a dining room table in a minute. Okay, I'm just saying that big old elephant that's in the room that everybody tries to ignore it. We know it's there. Oh, and we try to look around it. We're trying to go around it. We're trying to act like it's not there. We don't see it. We know this is right there. I'm just saying. So, y'all let me know in the comments what y'all thought of the movie. Let me know what you think of domestic violence. What are your thoughts on domestic violence? This is part one. We're going to do a part two because I want to talk about how the women are also part of domestic violence as well. And that will be on next week's episode. I love y'all so much. Thank you for tuning in this week. Make sure you click that subscribe button, the like button, the share button on whatever platform you are on, Spotify and YouTube. Go to my website, thejenovationnetwork.com. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter, become a member. Members get exclusive content on everything that I'm doing. My books, poetry. I have several books on Amazon.com. Make sure you get yourself a copy. Take selfies on your Instagram and tag me in it. Tag my Instagram at Jenavation. All the links will be in the description underneath this video. Make sure you check it all out. We have merchandise. We have the Jenavation Bokk Club that we do every Saturday. You can join in where we discuss poetry books specifically. Sundays we do. I'm doing a new thing, Poets Support Studies Group, where we discuss different kinds of poems and how we can incorporate it in our daily lives, part of our self-care routine. So we do that on Sundays as well. Make sure you, again, sign up for my sign up for our newsletters so you can get weekly newsletters on what we're doing. We update everything every week. So we got all kinds of stuff going on. So make sure you do that at thejenovationnetwork.com. Again, thank y'all so much. Make sure you click that subscribe button and share this. And we'll chat again next week. Dashiki Mentality Podcast.
Powered by Riverside.